If you're a pretty girl on LinkedIn 2 years ago, you just grow quicker than everyone else. There's popular people, and then there's people that are making money on the internet. Oh, I've been working for like 3 weeks, I've not made any money, I must have the wrong strategy. Let me go to a networking event instead, or let me start a TikTok account instead. I help people make money on LinkedIn, basically. LinkedIn's not that difficult. You pick a person, you pick a thing you want to sell, you write content that speaks to that person and shows them how much stuff you know. If you got a BMW M4 in your driveway, beautiful car, but it's missing one of the wheels, the car's not driving. Until you have all of the components, the car cannot drive. Social media is kind of like that. The skills you need to be popular on the internet are not the same as the skills you need to attract a customer, convert that customer into a sale, and then retain them. There's very few coaches out here charging 20K that are worth 20K. There's two problems you have. One is you don't have the system, and two, you don't have the behaviors to follow the system. When you turn up every day for 30 days to do something consistent and you don't make progress, that feels like a long time. You think you must be doing something wrong. Now I know 30 days is the minimum to get good at anything.
Ethan, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's nice to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, man. You came on my podcast, I think like around episode 30, episode 40 before.
Yeah.
So, it seems like fairly early on now because we've recorded 100 episodes more than when you came on before. So I guess first question, like how's life changed for you?
Very, very significantly, man. To the point where I bet if I watched back that first podcast, I would just cringe at all the things I said because I probably thought I was way smarter than I was, and I try not to do that today. But yeah, so significantly, like I think the last 2 years of my life is probably the biggest change I've ever seen in 2 years of my life. I can't even remember the person I was back then.
Crazy. Before we jump into like specifically what you mean by that, it'd be good to hear like what is it you do exactly right now?
I help people make money on LinkedIn, basically. I've worked out how to use social media content to sign clients for myself, sign clients for other people, and I help other service-based businesses use social media to make some money.
When you say make some money, how do you mean?
Specifically, like signing clients. I think that the beginning of like an entrepreneur's journey, that 0 to 10K a month jump, really comes down to what's the thing I'm selling, who am I selling it to, and how am I going to sell it? And just learning those three basic skills enough so that you're making about 10K a month. That was the hardest bit of my journey for me to learn, and the biggest, I guess, significant jump in my own lifestyle and my own confidence as someone who's running a business. And I learned a lot doing it myself and then helping lots and lots of other people do it. And so that's what I focus on. That first bit of what am I selling, who am I selling it to, how am I selling it? Well, if LinkedIn is the right way to sell it, then I help people work out the other.
Is it primarily like service-based clients?
Yeah, generally it's service-based businesses. Not always B2B, B2B in professional services like coaching, that kind of thing. I don't really do any product stuff or anything like that.
So you said you worked out how to do it yourself in terms of making money on LinkedIn, and then you've kind of transposed that to doing it for clients. So how did you do it for yourself? Because I mean, you said it changed a lot in the last 2 years. So I guess how did you perfect that formula?
The thing I've learned is that the formula isn't actually that hard. Like I say this a lot and I'm having to tell it to myself as I'm trying to grow past the point of where I'm at now. But the strategy isn't really that complicated. Like LinkedIn's not that difficult. You pick a person that you want to sell to, you pick a thing you want to sell, you write content that speaks to that person and shows them how much stuff you know. And then you set your profile up so that it's clear that if they come to it, they see like, oh, he helps me solve a problem, I should message him. The strategy is not really that complicated. What's hard is that like I had to post on the internet for like 2 years before I got good at it. And during that time, I'm getting all this conflicting advice from all these different people telling me that I should be commenting on other people's posts, that I should be on TikTok instead, that I should be doing all this sorts of different stuff. Then I've got my own doubt of, oh, I've been working for like 3 weeks and I've not made any money. I must have the wrong strategy. Let me go to a networking event instead, or let me start a TikTok account instead, or let me go on my high street and start knocking on doors, or maybe I should run some paid ads, or I might try some cold email, or my own inability to just stick to a plan. That's what I've been learning the last 2 years. Actually, making money on LinkedIn to 10K a month is not that complicated. The system is very simple. The hard thing is that as humans, we find it hard to turn up to the gym every day for a year.
Yeah.
It's not that hard what you do in the gym. You just go, you lift weights. If you keep going for a year, you'll get in shape. The hard thing is you have to keep going and keep doing the same thing. That was the tricky bit that took 2 years for me to learn.
The reason why I have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn specifically is I think like something that you just like basically talked about is I see a lot of creators doing a lot of random things, I think just for those vanity metrics. So they, do things that are just going to go viral. But then I always think like, are these things actually generating ROI for that individual? Like, is it attracting clients? Is it attracting leads? Is it doing all the stuff that they want to be doing? Is it actually making them money at the end of the day? And the reason why I wanted to get you on is because you're very, very focused on those sort of numbers and you cut out all the other bullshit. So I guess from your side, you said the strategy is pretty simple and you don't want to be sort of distracted by all these other things that I guess may be added to the virality aspect. So digging deeper, what are the core things that sort of drive that LinkedIn account, I guess, to make it more sort of primed to accept and to attract clients and leads?
Yeah. On the virality point, the way I think about it, and this is me having seen it inside my own business, inside my client's business, and also speaking to all the other LinkedIn people. So you never know exactly how much money someone's making, but you get like a good feel for where they're at because you're all going through similar problems, right? And what I've generally seen is that there's this Venn diagram of there's popular people on the internet, they get a lot of likes. There's value in that. It exists for a reason. There's a reason that Kim Kardashian has the amount of followers that she has. There's not no value in vanity metrics, but there's popular people. And then there's people that are making money on the internet. They're using content to attract the right people, show they're an expert and convert them into some kind of outcome. And there is a crossover in the middle, but the crossover is quite slim. And generally, when you see someone that's got 5,000 followers or you got someone that's got 50,000 followers, there's often not that much of a difference between the money they're making. There's some people at 50K followers that are also making a lot of bank. And there's lots of people at 5K followers that aren't making any money at all. But generally, the people with the bigger audiences, just because they got 10 times the followers doesn't mean they're making 10 times the money. Maybe they're making a little bit more because they get so many people to see their content. But there's a couple of people I know that have huge audiences and they're making bank, but they're definitely in the minority. Most of the people doing 100K plus aren't making more money than me or the other people in my space.
That is super interesting because loads of people think that more followers equals more leads equals more money. That's just, I guess, like the formula that everyone thinks, right? So why is that not the case?
There's a few different reasons. I mean, first and foremost, I think the biggest reason is the skills you need to be a 100,000 follower LinkedIn influencer are not the same skills you need to run a simple service-based business, which in my opinion comes down to, can I generate leads? Can I turn those leads into sales? And can I retain those sales so they keep paying me money every month?
Yeah.
The skills you need to be popular on the internet are not the same. Like the truth is, and like this is me just being frank, like if you're a pretty girl on LinkedIn 2 years ago, you just grow quicker than everyone else. Just pop up a nice little selfie, chat some shit in a post, couple bullet points, little emojis, you're just gonna get more like. The very first LinkedIn account I ever ran, right? I didn't know how good I did at the time. I thought like, oh, this is okay. There's a girl called Gabriella. On the very first post, we put up a nice selfie of her. She's a pretty young girl. Put up a photo of her, she gets 700 likes on the first post. Every post after that, minimum 200, 300, 400 likes. We grew her to 5K followers in like a month. She got leads from it. She got some inquiries, but the successfulness she looked like on the outside was not the same as what's happening in her inbox. In her inbox, she was getting maybe 5, 10 people a month reaching out about web design. On the outside, she looks like this most successful entrepreneur ever. The skills you need to be popular on the internet are not the same as the skills you need to attract a customer, convert that customer into a sale, and then retain them. So there are some people that both have both skill sets. They're popular and they can do that side of things. Most people have one or the other. So that's what I've seen.
That's really interesting. And I fully agree with you because I've seen people that have almost no presence on LinkedIn, but they're smashing it in terms of, because they grow through referrals. They don't grow through like LinkedIn, right? So they've mastered the skill of getting clients, making them extremely happy. So the retention rate is very, very high. And not only that, they're so happy that they refer them to their friends. And that for me is very valuable. But from what you're saying is like, from the other side of things, the people that are growing very, very fast on LinkedIn, they have a huge following and they're posting a lot of content, getting a lot of likes, things like retention rate of clients, referral rates and stuff like that might not be as high just because that's a different skill set.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, if you don't come from the social media world, like the truth is, right, so 2 years ago, TikTok was a hype. Everyone was doing this TikTok thing. So I was like, right, I'm going to start a business. I should do it on this TikTok thing, right? Because everyone wants it right now and it's brand new. So no one can be that good at it. So the first ever TikTok client I got, I knocked on the doors on my high street. It was like a cake shop, all these different shops. I randomly saw this sweet shop I'd never seen before, knocked on the door, spoke to the guy. He gave me £200 so I make some TikToks for him. His like third video hit like 100K views. Because back then TikTok was so easy. Like there was so few people doing it that you could jump right to the top. My second client, who I got in my local coffee shop, his first video got like 250K views. It was easy to get big numbers early. But again, getting big numbers on a platform and knowing how to build a marketing funnel that turns attention into money, two completely different skills. Getting the attention bit is a lot faster to learn. All that other stuff is taking me years beyond. I'm saying this to say that there's a lot of people on LinkedIn that because on the outside they look successful, big follower counts, lots of social proof and other humans saying, oh, this guy must be good. They sell really expensive stuff, but like there's very few coaches out here charging 20K that are worth 20K. There's some, but there's nowhere near as many coaches charging 20K who are actually worth 20K. So yes, there's loads of people in my industry that are popular on the outside and they make lots of money from selling the services they do. But like, I hear the whispers. I hear the graveyard of clients they're leaving behind. I'm on the sales calls with the people that said, yeah, I bought this program for like 10K and it was fucking shit. So I'm quite wary about this because your popularity in your brand means you can charge some really, really, really big prices. But your ability to charge those prices and then your ability to still be that guy after the contract's closed and deliver, they're two different skill sets. One of them takes a couple months to learn. One of them takes years to learn. And I think a lot of people are charging like they're that guy. You get the service and then it's just not that good because they're like me. They're like some fucking 20-year-old in their bedroom that's worked out to get a couple of views on LinkedIn and then suddenly they're charging like 10K a month for it. So like, of course you're not going to be good enough to do it, you know?
That's insane. I love the honesty. I love how sort of like we're getting a peek behind the curtain of this stuff because I've been thinking this for a long time because it's not something I spend a lot of time doing. I don't spend a lot of time posting a lot of content on LinkedIn. I posted the other day talking about like, yeah, the podcast is coming back and stuff like that. I mean, that's where you commented actually, but I got something like 200, 300 views, reactions and stuff like that. I got like 100 comments. It went insane, that one. But it's not something that I spend a lot of effort on. But so from your side of things, so let's dig deeper into sort of how you make money for clients then. What are they paying you for? What's sort of like missing for them? And what's your sort of ideal client in that regard?
I find this probably applies actually to regardless of how much money they're making. I think it applies to all my clients. There's two problems you have. One is you don't have the system. And two, you don't have the behaviors to follow the system. Like I said, the system is quite easy. It comes down to 5 things. Strategy, how are we going to define the person we're going after, what we're selling to them. Setting up your profile to reflect that. Writing content to get that person's attention. Profile should convert them as well. Using sales nav to get more people to come into your profile. And then a little bit of warm outreach to get some more meetings booked. I write about it all day, every day in the content. It's not that complicated. It's pretty like basic 101 social media stuff. The hard bit is when you do it for 30 days, you're not going to make any money. The analogy I use is that if you've got a BMW M4 in your driveway, beautiful car, but it's missing one of the wheels, the car's not driving. Doesn't matter how much time you spend and money you spend on this car, until you have all of the components, the car cannot drive. Social media is kind of like that. Until you have all of the components working together, if something is missing in your pipeline, then people don't come through and start converting from content into leads and then sales. And so I just find that the system isn't hard. The hard thing is you have to keep implementing the system over and over and tweaking and refining until it works. Like now this month is the 23rd. I've had about 40 leads this month through LinkedIn. It's a new record for me so far. I've got that because I've been going for like 20 months. This is impossible for me to achieve after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Now my numbers are crazy and the system's still pretty much the same. I'm basically doing the same thing as I was 2 years ago. But because I've just kept doing it, every month I've realized like, oh, that little tweak in my profile, or if I just shift my content slightly, or you learn little things that slowly make the system better. But I think that's the thing people struggle with the most. The plan's not that hard. I can explain it in a post. I can explain it in 30 days. Now execute it for 6 months without making any money, because you will make loads of money after the 6 months, but you have to keep going while you're not. I think that's the thing that people struggle to do. That's what took me so long to get to this point.
So it sounds like it's a consistency issue rather than a sort of strategy issue.
I think so.
Right?
I think people think it's a strategy, but it's actually not. The strategy is not that hard.
Right. Okay. Let's separate those two things. So let's talk about the structure, as you just said. Structures you said isn't difficult, and I see like loads of people selling those really expensive courses, selling all this information, and I'm always like, is it actually worth this much money? And you said like, no, probably not. So let's talk about that now. Like, what is that formula for clients, for yourself? So service-based clients, right? This is what it works for. So let's talk about that specifically, because I'm sure there's a lot of service-based entrepreneurs listening to this right now. So what is that formula?
God, I'll run through my Notion dashboard in my head. So there's 5 components of it. The first bit is strategy. Strategy just means, how am I going to define the person I'm going after? Who's my customer? What am I selling to that customer? What's the offer I'm putting in front of them? So mine is I help founders sign clients through LinkedIn, the person you sell to, the thing you sell. And then what are all the problems that person is going through? I can write about in my content. I do that by asking myself, what are their pains, what are their fears, what are their misconceptions, and what are their desires? And I write like a 10 bullet point for each. I've got a list of 40 problems they're going through. That is the definition of my customer and the thing I'm selling them to. It's not that complicated, right? Then I take that information. Step 2 is I go to the profile and I say, how do I reflect that information on my profile? I've said I help founders sign clients through LinkedIn. That's my strategy piece. Go to my profile. That's what it will say. Go to my banner. It says the same thing, but visually. Go to my featured section. There's lots of proof that I help founders sign clients through LinkedIn. Again, it's not that complicated, right? Pick the person and the thing you sell, then go to your profile, make it clear that you help that person and by selling this thing to them. Profile is the second bit. Content is the third. All those problems I wrote about, write content every day about those problems. Show people how you can solve them. Speak to founders who want to sign clients through LinkedIn, in my case. Again, there's nothing revolutionary there. It's not that difficult. Fourth is sales nav. That's just something unique to LinkedIn, but you can send out 100 connections a week to your specific audience. You get automation to do that or a VA. I use an automation. And then 5 is outreach. Inbound just takes a while to build. It's like you have a podcast, right? Only so much can happen from episode 1. You have to keep going. In the meantime, to make a bit of money faster, while people are reading your content, you can just start sending them like 5 DMs a day, starting conversations and getting meetings booked that way. That's literally the system. The strategy, the profile, the content. Sales nav's like a little bonus extra, and then outreach to speed things up a little bit.
That sounds
there's nothing more to it.
I mean, from speaking, like, it sounds exactly as if it could work for any business. Like, it doesn't have to be service-based business either. It could be a product business, it could be a software business, it could be anything. Because from what you just outlined, it's like, okay, who is your customer? What are their pain points? And then once you sort of define their pain points, it's like, how do you communicate that from your profile? And then what do you post? How do you like display your profile in that sense? Doesn't sound too difficult.
There's nothing I do that's it's just now go do it for 2 years and you'll get good at it. That's the reason I'm getting 40 leads a month. Not because the strategy is mad complicated. The strategy is so simple. That's the same strategy I read. The first book I ever read on marketing basically gave me that strategy. I'm using the same thing to supply it to LinkedIn a little bit. The hard thing is you have to keep doing it over and over, because right now you think you know what the pain points of your audience are, but you probably haven't communicated them very well. You don't know how to phrase them in their language. You don't know if you should call your audience founders or entrepreneurs or business owners or all sorts of different. You don't know how to actually execute the 5 elements of the strategy to a high standard. That's the bit that's difficult. That's the bit that just takes posting again and again and again and thinking, why is it not working, and keep going. But the actual strategy has not changed in like 2 years. It's the same thing.
So everyone that's trying to like game the algorithm and doing stuff like this, like it seems like overkill to me.
Same.
That's crazy. That's crazy, because I've had people on this podcast, even from the LinkedIn world, I'm sure you're your friends, and they talk about so many like niche, like little hacks and stuff like this.
I think they're all chatting shit. These people are my friends, don't get me wrong. Like, I speak to these people, but I just think they're all talking nonsense. Like, to be fair, like, my communication style is very straightforward. So I think maybe we're saying the same things and I'm just saying it in a little bit more plain language, but I really don't think it's it's nothing to do with the algorithm. It's not how well you write your hooks. It's not like, those things help, but they're little like 20% dust on the top. Sure, it's better to post at 7:30 in the morning because you get that morning bit of traffic on LinkedIn. You should write a hook. Generally, you want it to say I in it or be a personal perspective, because those hooks do better. There's tactical things you can do for LinkedIn that you learn over time. But fundamentally, if you just show up 5 times a week and write a piece of content that speaks to the problems your audience has, and you do that for a year, you'll make some money from it. And you'll learn along the way about all the hook writing and all the structures and all that bullshit. Like, that will come to you. Fundamentally, just write to the person who has the problem that you want to solve and keep doing it until they message you.
What are people doing wrong? That sounds insanely simple. So what are people doing wrong apart from the consistency piece?
I was going to say, the thing people are doing wrong is they give up after 3 months.
Okay, let's talk about that. So why do people give up after 3 months?
Because when I started posting on Instagram and TikTok, this is pre-LinkedIn, and I'd gone for 9 months. So at the time I was running a little fashion business. I was selling like clothes on Depop and eBay, secondhand stuff. I'd get like Stone Island jumpers for cheap, flip them, make £20 a jumper, whatever. And I saw Gary Vee making all these videos like, oh, you should post on TikTok, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. So I said, all right. I kept seeing them come out and I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I just quit my job as well, so I have more time. So I started posting on Instagram and TikTok. I looked back at it the other day, bro. Those videos were so cringy, man. So bad. I was walking up and down the park giving motivational speeches and dumb shit. But Yeah, I posted on it for 9 months and I didn't make any money from it. Like I didn't make any more sales on my store. I randomly at the end of that 9 months had someone DM me and that person turned into my first social media contract. But for 9 months, like I didn't make any money from it. And I didn't even get that good at it by the end of 9 months because I like nowhere near as good as I am today. But I've just always had the mentality that if in 10 years I'm balling, this was time well spent. Because I started when I was like 19, 20. So I thought if by the time I'm 30, I can be good enough at something to make good money from it, I'll be cool. Like I've got the rest of my life to enjoy that money. And so 9 months wasn't really, I mean, I'm not going to say it was easy because I was fucking broke all the time and it was tough. But I'd always had the mentality that I'm just going to keep going until eventually it works. And so maybe 3 years since I first started posting content, I've got pretty good at it and I make decent money from it now. But I think a lot of the other things I tried to venture into, like, oh, I've got a new offer. I'd do it for like a month and I wouldn't make a sale. And I think, oh, the offer must be shit. But that's not true. The offer's not shit. I just don't know how to sell it yet. There's so many different components of this car that needs to come together before it can drive. I'm used to just doing things for 30 days and not being good at them and thinking, oh, I must not be good at it. Whereas in reality, it just takes 90 days, 180 days, a year to actually substantially get good at something. Now I've been going for 3 years, I know that. So when I launch a new offer and it doesn't sell in the first month, I'm cool because I've been through this before. I know things take time, but before you've made any money, before you have that experience, you don't know that 30 days is not that long. It feels fucking long. When you turn up every day for 30 days to do something consistent and you don't make progress or it doesn't look like progress, that feels like a long time. You think you must be doing something wrong. Now I know 30 days is the minimum to get good at anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine. She left like a very high paying corporate job and now she's doing her own thing. And she's going through the rut of like, basically, like I'm not seeing any progress. I'm not, because she's in a service-based client business. That's what she's trying to sell. And she's going through the process of like trying to get clients, trying to basically like make some money through it. And for her, she's like, why am I not seeing results straight away? Like I've come from like such an experienced position where I knew all these people, all these contacts, and for some reason they're just not convert. She's got a few clients, but like for some reason, not all of them are converting. And like, so what's interesting for me is loads of people, even very senior people, don't have the patience to sort of see things through. Because when you're a one person band, you kind of, it's in some ways it's easy to move fast, but in other ways you have to be patient and let the sort of the plant grow. Like if you're trying to plant like a whole orchard of like trees, like you need to actually let the business grow. You need to be patient and let it grow. But obviously you can like do, you know, set the foundation and sort of water as much as you can. But at some point you just have to step back and be like, let's just like look what happens, right? So I think that's the one thing I've really like taught myself as well is you can try really hard to try to get as many, from my perspective, like views and stuff as possible. But you have to be patient at the end of the day, because though if you develop good quality content, it will get views, but you just have to be patient about it. So I think it goes across the board, really.
I agree. You brought two things to mind. The first is that patience isn't a feeling, patience is a behavior. Like, I feel very impatient all the time. I'm very annoyed that I haven't made more sales in the last week or whatever. When I go the way sales works is sometimes you have 3 calls in a row and you close 3. Sometimes you have 5 calls in a row and you close none. So when I go through 5 calls in a row and I've closed none, I feel impatient. My behavior says, since I was 19 and I first started a business that eventually started making some money, till almost being 26 now, I've had periods where I've slowed down. I've had periods where I've been unable to get out of bed. I've had periods where I haven't been going all out. But 6 years later, I'm still here. So I must be patient. I'm a patient person because 6 years later, I'm still doing roughly the same thing. I might feel impatient, but patience isn't a feeling. Patience is a behavior. We can feel as impatient as we want. We can feel as frustrated as we want. But as long as we keep turning up day in, day out, or week in, week out, depending on how long you need a break for in between, patience is just keep doing the same thing for long enough until it works, you know? And most people can do that.
Yeah. Two things. One, what made you be patient in that? Because at a young age, you expect results straight away because you don't have that sort of experience of, oh, if I'm patient, like this will happen. But you sort of expect results straight away. So when you were at that sort of age, yeah, you're putting the grind and you were doing work, but what made you want to stay in that field?
I think that's almost the point I'm making, is that I didn't think I was being patient. I felt very impatient. I felt very annoyed that I'm 21 and I've not made loads of money.
But what I'm saying is like you weren't seeing the results straight away. So what made you be like, you were impatient, and as you said, but what made you be like, I want to carry on?
I didn't really have another choice. Like the last time I actually fully quit my business once. Like I was going to shut down the company. I put in all the paperwork to remove myself as a shareholder. I was like, fuck this shit. Basically, I'd had my first like 15K, 13K month, something like that. And so I thought I was a big boy entrepreneur now. So I took all that money I made and I hired a team. I got like this £3,000 a month coach. Like I spent all the money. And then the next month I was actually in debt, like 3K of shit I couldn't pay for. So I'd just gotten from 15 up, which was like almost a whole year's salary for me at the time, to being 3 down. And it just completely fucked my mental. Like I couldn't handle it. So I handed in all the paperwork. I packed up the business. I said to my mum, I need to find a job. She started helping me find jobs, And then I was looking at like, what jobs can I do? And I was like, right, I can go be a project manager again, make like 30K, 35K. I could go into social media. Now I've been doing that for a bit, but I'll be junior level. So I'm going to make like 20K. And I was thinking like, I actually don't have any other options now. Like the route I've gone down mean that all my mates went to Oxford and now they're all doing investment banking and they're all doctors and lawyers and shit. And I didn't do that. I decided that I was going to do this business thing. So I don't have another choice now. Like there's nothing. If there was another alternative that made me happy and made me money and I could live a comfortable life in, I would do it. But knowing that in the social media game, I stick it out for 3 years and I make some decent money from it. And if I go to corporate, I'm gonna have to stick it out for like 20 years just to get to the same point. I don't have a choice. I have to do this now. Do you know what I mean?
That's crazy though. Like, so you went from like 15K up to like then basically in a hole.
Yeah, that was a long day, man. That was a long fucking day. I just made some bad choices. Lessons that I can take forward now, but at the time, just bad choices.
But on the surface, all these like LinkedIn influencers, like everything's all dandy, like everything's always good. Like loads of clients all the time, like they're always thriving.
I think it's because we live in a world where a lot of our content is around sales and marketing. Like, oh, I signed a client, I made X revenue, I must be doing well. But like, that's not running a business. That's you being good at convincing people on the front end to give you money for something. But doing that in a sustainable way every single month and then retaining those people on the back end, there's all sorts of other shit you got to work out and be good at that I'm not good at. Like I'm still learning to do, you know? So yeah, I'm fucking good at lead gen. I know how to get leads in and I know how to make sales. But running a successful business, that means I'm not just doing that stuff, but my team's doing that stuff as well. And I'm delivering results for my clients. There's all sorts of stuff I got to learn before the whole thing is working, you know?
I want to ask you a question about this. So this is the second part of my question was, so there is a line between being patient and sticking out something too long and pivoting, right? So at what point are you like, okay, you know what? I've been patient enough. Like, should I pivot now? Like, what's the decision I should make here?
Yeah, that's tough. That is hard. And I still have to make that decision all the time now, right? As I'm adjusting my offer. I tried to strip the emotion out of the decision and say like, logically, have I done this long enough to really know? Like one of my friends, she just signed 3 clients in, they all brought about 6K in revenue. And then in the first month, she lost all 3 of them. Wow. Now that could be a unlucky streak. Sometimes clients just leave. Maybe there's something wrong with service. It is what it is. But as emotionally painful as that feels, logically, that is not evidence that you're not good at what you do. Because that could just be the first 3. You don't know what's going to happen for the next 3 and the next 3. Realistically, you probably need to get like 20 to 30 clients in before you can objectively say, right, something's wrong if this keeps happening. But emotionally, can you pick yourself up again and get the next 3? And if they leave, can you pick yourself up again and get the next 3? If you just emotionally can't keep slogging through it, then maybe it's time to drop it. But if you can and you can handle the emotion, I just say, logically think, is 5 clients leaving really a reflection the service is terrible? Or is that just a part of the game and I need more time to learn, you know? Normally, logically, you can work out if it actually has been too long or not. But humans aren't just logical, you know? We're emotional and sometimes it's hard to make 15K one month and then lose it all the next.
Because I was at a point with this like similar to you being like, you've had the paperwork to basically like sign it in. I had a moment with this podcast, I think it was like, fairly, early compared to now, but like for me at the time, I was like maybe episode 30, episode 25. I still hadn't cracked sort of how to get views or listens really. And I was at a stage where I was like, is this even worth doing? Because I started as a COVID project. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to carry on, like whatever. I'm not even going to look at the views. I'm not going to look at any of the numbers. And then I sort of started enjoying the process a bit more rather than being obsessed with the numbers side of things. And ironically, once you get more obsessed with the process and those little, I guess, as you said, like changing the formula sort of from the data and stuff, from like looking at the experiences and things like that. That's when things started going a bit higher. And I started looking at like short form video and like doing things in person and stuff like that. And that's when things sort of changed. Still learning these things, by the way. Like the formula's always changing. But I guess like I was at a point where I was like, I think it's enough, and I think enough is enough. But I've recorded like, I don't know, 35 hours of content. I think that's enough, where I'm like, no one's really like watching or listening. But for some reason, I was like, you know what, let me do one more episode. And then sort of over time, I don't know, as you said, it's a logical thing. You take the emotion out of it, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing will impact people. And like with you, you know that the service you're offering will help people. You just have to like find a different way of doing it. You have to find like alternative communication methods. You have to find alternative mediums of communication. Like there's different things that you can experiment with. But yeah, so I think that's a really good point, is like take the emotion out of the decision, because it's very easy, at least from my perspective, that after say hours of working on something, you're like, you know what, I'm done. Like this is so tiring. I've got like so little results. This isn't even worth doing. I can easily get a job that pays like 25, 30K. Let me just let it go. But I think if you know in your heart what you're doing is valuable, and if you look around you, what people like similar to what you're doing are making good money or generate, whatever your sort of definition of success is, I think you stick to that path, at least from my perspective.
One thing I've always said to myself is, so when I was telling you about the first Instagram page I ran, those first videos put on the internet, I watched back the first ever video I wrote. And in that video, I said the same thing that I said hundreds of times afterwards. So I know I fucking meant it at the time. But if other people are doing it, it must be possible for me to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Logically, it can't be that hard. I'm not trying to go to fucking Mars. I'm not competing with Elon Musk. I'm trying to make some money from content. It can't be that tough. And so if the reason is, I don't think it's going to work, well, there's lots of other people that do it. So it probably would work if I stuck it out for long enough. And it's not like being a movie star. It doesn't require some like, supernatural talent that not many people have. It's fucking writing LinkedIn posts. It can't be that tough. So yeah, if there's lots of other people doing it and it's not like some super niche skill that very few people have, it's probably just that I've not been patient enough.
Yeah, like most industries, like especially service-based clients, like there isn't a monopoly. Like, you're not trying to start like a water company or like an oil and gas company. Like you're trying to build like a marketing agency or like a design agency or graphic, like whatever. But there's so much work out there that like you can definitely find stuff, right? Like that's at least from my experience. And if other people are doing it, then for sure there's some money in it.
Yeah, I agree. The world is very, very big, man. Someone was telling me the other day, they didn't want to send people DMs because they didn't want to like burn their audience. And I was like, brother, you're not that important. Like if you spend the next 3 months DMing 100 people a day, you're going to stay in the memory of 4 of them. Like we're not that significant. There's so many people in the world. The problem is not like, the market, or it's too competitive, or the economy, this, that, and you're not running Coca-Cola, big man. You're trying to make 10K a month. Like the economy has no impact whatsoever on what you and I are doing. If I stick this out for long enough, will I get to a decent enough level that I can probably make some money from it? And like 90% of cases, yeah.
Really?
That's how I thought about it anyway. There's loads of people making money on LinkedIn. Surely I can do this. Eventually.
With your clients, do you primarily work with like individuals, like small teams, or do you usually work with like larger agencies? No,
it's usually individuals. I've worked with larger agencies and I've worked with bigger people. The honest truth of it is, there's a guy, I don't think I can really say. He works for a very big social agency.
Yeah.
That used to be run by a very, very influential entrepreneur. He sold it. And now this other CEO's come in. That entrepreneur was very, very big on social media. And so they wanted this new CEO to start getting a bit active on LinkedIn. And it went very well. Like we wrote good content for him. It's tough because like he's a very competent person. We think very differently. So it's not maybe as easy as writing content for someone making 3K a month who does a little bit of coaching. Like being the CEO of an 8-figure agency is a difficult brand to build. But it was going good. But I just don't care as much as when Harrison calls me up at 8 in the evening and he's like, right, I may have fucked up because my mortgage is in like 3 months and I forgot about it and I need to make 15K in the next 3 months. That, I can get a piece of paper out, we can get a plan together and we can start hitting it. I enjoy that shit. That's the thing I had to do when I was like, right, I've got rent to pay in 5 days and I ain't got no money. Like I've got to work out how to get this money together, or I've got an 8 grand tax bill coming up end of this month.
Yeah.
I got that letter in. I got this brown letter in my house, and I was just randomly going about my day, and I was like, I haven't opened that letter. I'm sure there was something. And then I opened it up and it said, oh, your VAT payment, you missed it. Like you have to pay the next one or basically you're going to get a fine. And I was like, oh shit, when's that due? What? Like in 3 days? I was like, oh fuck, I need to get the money for that. And then I was like, hang on, I swear there was a second brown letter. Let me just check that one as well. That was my corporation tax due end of the month. Long story short, I owed like 8 grand that month, some of it in like 3 days, and I'd completely forgotten about all of it. So follow me for like information on lead gen and sales, but don't ask me for like tax advice and shit. I'm awful at that. But like, these are the problems I've been having to deal with for like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. This is the shit I do. I enjoy it. It's changed my life and I like helping other people do it as well. When you're an 8-figure company and you close another 9-figure company as a client, congratulations. But like, it's just rich people getting richer. I don't care that much. Like, it's cool. I like doing the work. I like working with these people. I've got a skill. You want to buy it? Cool. But the stuff I enjoy is like, you're an ordinary person like I was with a laptop and you're trying to work out, how do I make some money for myself? That's the shit I can get behind, you know?
Oh mate, I love that. Yeah. How did you make 8 grand in like 3 days?
Brother, I got out my spreadsheet. I cancelled every subscription that wasn't absolutely essential. Same day, I said to all my contractors, if I've got to pause the payment, delay the payment, whatever. Actually, all of them ended up just keep going until I can pay them later. So that was nice for them. But yeah, I just made sure I had no more expenses coming out. And then I did exactly what I just said to you. I looked at my strategy and I said, is this the right person to be selling to? Yes. Am I writing content to that person? Yes. I doubled my content production. I started my outreach again. So I've been doing 25 DMs a week. I don't think it's a coincidence that this month I've had 40 plus leads book in my diary so far. It's the 23rd and that's a new record for me. It's also the month that I need to make sales because I completely fucked up my tax bill. Like the pressure was on, so I started cooking, you know? I don't think those two things are a coincidence, but yeah, it's all right now. I've got like, I need to make maybe one more sale before the end of the month, but that'll be cool.
You got like what? Maybe a week?
I got 7 days and I've had like 5 people say yes, just one of them hasn't paid. So
cool.
It'll be all right, but yeah.
Well, Ethan, like it's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Like so much has changed in the last 2 years, which is like insane. If anyone wants to have a funny like giggle to themselves, like go back and watch the first episode that we did with Ethan like 2 years ago or something crazy.
I'm sure I chat so much.
I was worse as well. It's not just you. Like I wasn't as good as I am now in terms of hosting. So yeah, if you want to giggle in terms of both sides, definitely check that out. How can people stay in touch with you and what you're doing? Yeah, LinkedIn's the place. Ethan Golden, ETHAN GOLDING. Yeah, and we'll go from there. Sweet. What's like the end goal for you though, like doing all the social media stuff? I think marketing is a useful skill because it's teaching me how do I communicate my ideas to the masses. One day I'm going to have ideas worth communicating. I can see I'm in some kind of arena and there's like 5 layers of balconies up. There's like hundreds of thousands of people there. It's all being live streamed and I walk onto the stage and I say something. And I don't know what I say, but like some people are laughing and some people are crying and like it's hitting them. Whatever I'm saying, they needed to hear it. I just don't know what I'm going to say yet. So that's what I'm working towards. That stadium, that arena where I get that audience. And then I just need to do significant enough things for the next 10, 20 years that I have something to say on that stage, you know? Well, that's cool, man. All right, bro. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast again. And yeah, I'm sure we'll chat very soon. Thank you so much. That's fun, man. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode of The Millennial Entrepreneur. The ambition of the podcast is to show relatable stories from young entrepreneurs doing some incredible things to inspire the next generation, including you listening wherever you are. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years and the ambition has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the scale of where we want to go. We want to bring on bigger guests for you guys to show more and more relatable stories from young entrepreneurs across the world. The majority of you guys watching or listening haven't subscribed to the podcast yet. All you have to do is click that subscribe button wherever you're listening, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and that will allow us to bring on bigger guests and ask the questions that you really want to hear. And it really is that simple.